Hello everybody, this is the Scarlet Troll, pronouns he, him, because I forgot to carry that over in the first couple of these. And let's talk about monsters. Entertaining horror doesn't necessarily need some kind of deeper meaning to be entertaining, but really good horror generally has its on-screen menace parallel some sort of real-life peril. And since the classic movie monsters have decades or even centuries of mythology behind them, they become a pretty standard, if still constantly evolving, shorthand as such. Vampires usually represent otherworldly hunger and/or eerie sensuality. Frankenstein's monster is an unliving monument to man's hubris trying to control forces beyond his ken. Leigh Whannell's Invisible Man pretty seamlessly depicts the lingering and ever-present shadow of abusive romantic relationships. And on the flip side, part of why Leigh Whannell's Wolfman isn't nearly as good is because it doesn't fully commit to turning that same lens on generational trauma. So where does that leave Lee Cronin's The Mummy? See, the weird thing about this movie is that, in terms of presentation and tone, it feels like it has a lot more in common with demonic possession movies than a mummy movie. Admittedly, I can see the reason for wanting to use a mummy here as a representation of the dangers of clinging to a past best left buried, but the issue is, the movie doesn't really adhere to that idea. Don't get me wrong, I'm no staunch traditionalist. I'm all for the occasional blending of subgenres, and there's enough of a mummy movie in here that I don't think it's outright deceptive to call it The Mummy. I just don't know that this is the exact right kind of monster for this kind of movie. Right, the premise. A girl named Katie disappears while her family's staying in Cairo for her father's work, leaving her family devastated and scrambling for answers until she finally reemerges 8 years later, having been discovered in a millennia-old sarcophagus, malnourished and borderline catatonic. Her parents, played by Jack Rayner and Laia Costa, do their best to help her heal and reintegrate her into the family, but... Okay, I'm just gonna rip the mummification bandages off here. We've got some stupid fucking protagonists in this movie. I don't care what the fuck some doctor told me about love and care being the best healing tools here. If my daughter's flesh starts peeling off of her leg and she's vomiting up acid, I'm gonna get a second goddamn opinion and not wait around hoping the power of love and family is gonna sort shit out. Then again, denial is a river in Egypt, so in that sense, their callous disregard for common sense is actually about as on theme as a lot of other aspects of this movie. Alright. I'll give Lee Cronin's The Mummy credit where it's due. This is an uncomfortable film, and I mean that in the most complimentary sense possible, thanks in large part to some stellar makeup and prosthetics work. The acting is fine. None of the performances here are what I would call amazing, but I do want to give a shout out to Jack Rayner for doing an increasingly over-the-top, wide-eyed ruh-roh face as things start to unravel. May Calamawe's here too as a police detective in Egypt, doing her damnedest to make sure that this stays a mummy movie. And Natalie Grace does a lot of the heavy lifting as Katie, but none of it's really enough to elevate the material. I'm trying not to give too much away in the way of spoilers because I do think this is worth checking out if you can handle more than a little blood and gore in your horror movies, but I do feel the need to caution that after all that suspenseful build-up and body horror, the climax is kind of a letdown, full of sand and fury signifying very little. Although I guess I can pay Lee Cronin's The Mummy another compliment, albeit a little bit of a backhanded one. In a world where so many horror movies are dedicated to delivering an unsatisfying fuck you of a horror ending because of genre convention, at least this movie manages to take its completely unsatisfying ending and run in a totally different direction? With all the clowning around, it might sound like I had a bad time with this movie, but that's definitely not the case. For me, horror movies exist on a weird grading curve where it takes a lot for me to say that a movie isn't worth watching. Hell, I even still recommend the one that I put in Don't Pay Money to See This. Style counts for a lot, even if it can occasionally be at the expense of substance, and as far as I'm concerned, any horror movie that has me squirming in my seat uncomfortably for any length of time is still definitely worth a watch, and that's a bar that Lee Cronin's The Mummy pretty easily clears. It's nowhere near as good as Bring Her Back, and it's not even on the same level as Lee Cronin's previous directorial effort, Evil Dead Rise, but I still think this deserves to go in the this is decent tier. Even if it leaves a dry, arid taste in your mouth, and I would apologize for all of these puns that I've been making across this video, but that would require me to be sorry, and we all know I'm not. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, share the video around, and hey, if you saw The Mummy, let me know what you thought about it in the comments, because I'm really interested in finding out. And I'll catch you all next time.